Right, let's kick it off. I'm sure there'll be other people who join later, but we'll let them in. So good evening. My name is Mitesh from Success at School, and I'll be your host for the evening. You're participating in this webinar because you're interested in learning about the National Audit Office early career offerings. To keep things brief, tonight you will hear from NAO, the UK's independent public spending watchdog, the people that make sure tax money is being spent appropriately. From the NAO, we have Zoe in the resourcing team, Bia and Mark, who are senior audit managers, and a couple of NAO audit apprentices, Dane and Rachel. Before I turn the discussion over to Zoe, I would like to make a small request. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat and we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end, and we'll try and answer them in the chat as well as we go along. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Finally, the webinar is being recorded, so if you miss anything during the webinar, we will put this on our YouTube channel tomorrow, and you'll be able to catch up with anything you've missed then as well. Zoe, I'll hand it over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Mitesh. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. So by way of introduction, my name is Zoe Gallen. I'm the Graduate and Apprentice Resourcing Specialist at the NAO. So I actually oversee all elements of our trainee scheme. So that's everything from attraction and marketing all the way through to onboarding and getting people into the organisation ready to start their careers. So I'm actually joined by my colleagues who Mitesh introduced earlier, and you will have a chance to hear from them a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by talking to you about the National Audit Office, or the NAO, as we like to call ourselves, and the opportunities that we offer. So, and you can also hear from our current audit apprentices to figure out whether or not you feel that this is a career that you would actually want to commit to. So what I kind of wanted to start off with was a few myths that do tend to exist around sort of the accountancy audit world, and I'm not going to lie, I think I probably thought exactly the same before I joined the NAO. So one of those that I hear quite a lot is that they feel that it's accounting, it's just numbers, it's just spreadsheets, I'm sitting at a desk all day just plugging numbers into a spreadsheet. Is that the case? And no, it is not. It's very wrong. The work that our auditors do is very diverse. Not going to lie, audit is a challenging career, but it's also very stimulating to career. So if you like critical thinking, you like a bit of problem solving, then this could absolutely be a career for you to consider. So we do internal and external audits, but that is just a bit of a highlight of some of the different areas that our colleagues can get involved in. So yes, negotiating finance for organisations, you know, doing internal or external audits, looking into criminal financial activity. So it is very varied work that you can do. Now, the other myth that I tend to hear quite a lot as well is that people feel that you kind of get pigeonholed and that employment options can be very limited. But again, that is not the case at all. As an organisation, we provide a huge amount of relevant work experience, so you can easily accrue the experience that you need in order to gain membership into the ICAW and gain your professional qualification, which is what we're going to be talking about with you today. So as a company, we audit everything around 400 accounts each year, and the clients do range from major government departments such as the Ministry of Defence, Department of Work and Pensions, through to public bodies as well, such as English Heritage and Food Standards Agency. But we also have some international clients as well, and we provide support to audit institutions in developing countries, I should say. So trainees do have that opportunity to help deliver on our financial audit work, but they also get that chance to work on our high profile value for money studies as well as a range of other assurance work to really help our clients improve their performance. Now, also as a trainee with us, the role is mobile, so you will get to travel, meet lots of people, work on a lot of client sites as well. So, you know, you can spend a little bit of time each year travelling for local audit. And I think the final myth that I hear quite a lot is, and I get this all the time when I'm out at schools, I'm at career fairs, it is, oh, but I didn't study maths. You're only looking for people that are really good at maths. Is that not the case? I didn't study this. I didn't do brilliantly at this at A level, but, or sorry, GCSE, but, you know, I'm kind of doing a bit better at A level. And no, again, you do not need to be a maths whiz. So we do look for people from a huge range of different skills and backgrounds. All of our trainees come from, I think, possibly every kind of subject you could possibly think of. Arts, social sciences, not just maths. So the work that we do really benefits from different perspectives that people bring from their different backgrounds. So whether you join us as an apprentice, whether you join as a graduate, what you will do is benefit from a really successful scheme, a well-supported scheme that is designed to help you succeed all the way. And this is just a very, very small section of some of the skills that we look for. So this is what we would like candidates to sort of demonstrate when they're going through the recruitment process. So kind of moving on, obviously, from sort of some of the myths about accounting and auditing, who are we? So who are the NAO? Who are the National Audit Office? You may possibly have heard of us by another name, sort of the Independent Public Spending Watchdog, and that is who we are. So the role of our organisation is to scrutinise the public spending for Parliament, and it's actually about helping the nation spend wisely. So we are funded by Parliament, and we support members and peers in holding government to account for the way in which public money is spent. And we do that through the audits that we run. So it's all about us helping our economy and our society work better. So we support and enable improvements in that financial management and the way in which all of those vital public services are delivered across the sector to millions of people every day. So that'd be yourselves, your friends, your family, your parents, and so on. So as a trainee, this means that the work you do has a real purpose, has real impact, and offers real challenge and real variety. So you will contribute to audits, you will work on projects, looking at government's use of resources. So the work we do as well is really big hitting. We're often in the headlines, you'll hear about us on the news, you'll see us in the papers. And in the current economic climate, there is a lot of attention being paid to achieving better value for money for the taxpayer. So because of the position we're in, it means that we can focus on those really big systemic cross-government and cross-cutting issues to bring about some really good change. So what do we do? So this is just a very, very small selection of kind of things that we have done over the last year. So I'm sure that a lot of you would have heard about the reports about schools and kind of the concrete in the buildings and how unsafe they were. So there's a report that we published that was talking about the risks that had not been addressed because of years of underfunding. So that is just one example. And then another example that I think has been published more recently, I think last month, if I remember, is about student loans. So analysis that had been done in 2022 by the student loan companies had detected instances of fraud. So this was potentially associated with organised crime. So this led to a wider investigation that did identify some suspicious patterns of activity. So that just gives you a little insight into some of the things that we actually do get involved in. But one thing I should comment on is that we, the NAO, cannot comment on whether or not public funds are being used appropriately. So we can't comment on whether or not public policy is the right one. And I did mention earlier some of the government departments that we audit. So again, just to kind of cover them off, you know, MOD, so Ministry of Defence, Education, Ministry of Justice, Department for Transport, HMRC, and then alongside that, some of the other agencies such as the Passport Office, but also some of those non-departmental public bodies, so British Museum, British Library, Environment Agency. So a really, really nice big variety of clients there. So in terms of how we work, so this is Gareth. Gareth is our Comptroller and Auditor General, or CNAG, and he joined in 2019, and he is actually the individual that leads the organisation. So he certifies the accounts of all government departments and a lot of the public sector bodies as well. And he has that statutory authority to examine and report to Parliament on whether departments and the bodies they fund have used their resources efficiently, effectively, and with economy. So we do report objectively and independently on what the government does. We do not advise on policy objectives. So a couple of little fun facts in there. Gareth was appointed by Her Majesty the Queen, so back in 2019, and that is his role, is to report to Parliament on central government spending. So in terms of us as an organisation, we have 2 locations. So our main office is in London, just near Victoria Station. I think maybe about 900 colleagues currently at the moment. And then we have our regional office up in Newcastle city centre, a beautiful brand new office that opened in May last year. Not going to lie, very jealous when I got to go up there last year. But London is being refurbished later this year, so Newcastle might be jealous of us eventually. But 2 great locations if you did decide that you wanted to apply, so you have the options of 2 different locations that you could be based at. So this is what you want to know, opportunities. What opportunities do we have at the National Audit Office? So every single year we recruit into each of these opportunities, and I think the top 3 are the ones that you might possibly be more interested in. So the first one is our apprentice scheme. So this is a 5-year scheme designed to get you through to the ACA Chartered Accountancy qualification. It is designed specifically for people that are out of school or out of college, so without a degree. We also have our new, launched today, Digital Financial Audit Apprenticeship, and my colleagues B and Mark will be able to touch on that a little bit later on. This is a 4-year programme and is designed to give you a bachelor's in applied digital technology. And for anyone that might be in year 12 at the moment, you might be interested to know that we actually run a 1-week work experience placement every October half term, and it's for year 13 students. And it's an opportunity for you to spend a week either in London or Newcastle, actually getting some really good experience and exposure into the NAO and the work that we do. And at the end of that, we actually offer you the chance to go through an assessment centre. So we fast track you through. And if you are made an offer, you can join us on the apprenticeship the following year when you finish school. And Rachel might possibly touch on that a little bit later because she did our work experience not last October, October before. So she could maybe ask some questions for you there. But if you did decide you wanted to go down the university route, then we also offer the same scheme, but for graduates. So once you've graduated, it would be a 3-year qualification through to ACA Chartered Accountancy. And then also leading into that, we have a summer internship as well. And that's for students in their penultimate year at university. Again, it's a chance to come into the office, get some really great work experience under their belts. And again, at the end of that, we allow them to fast track through to an assessment. And if they're made an offer, they'll join us on the graduate scheme once they graduate the following year. So some really great opportunities there to not just get some experience and figure out whether or not this is the route you want to do, but then also the opportunity to fast track. If you don't get into those options, you've still got the opportunity to apply as normal. But we will share copies of these slides around afterwards, so you've got access to that QR code, as that QR code will take you directly through to our trainee website, so you can read a lot more and decide whether or not you feel that this might be something you want to explore further. So what is the ACA? So for any of you that don't know, it is a qualification that the ICAW, or the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, it's their professional qualification in accounting, finance and business. So for our apprentices, it does take up to 5 years to complete if you join as an apprentice, but you'll usually be exam qualified after 4 years, and your final year will be spent gaining your work experience days that you need to become fully qualified. So that's in terms of exam qualified and time qualified. So training and development is the single largest investment that the NAO makes in its people. So you will have the opportunity right from the start of your career to make a real impact. So as well as the professional training that is fully funded by us, there's a lot of training courses that our office offers to cover the latest accounting and auditing techniques. So, you know, you could be doing audit interviewing courses where you can learn how to build effective client relationships, so you can hold successful client meetings. Later on, when you become a little bit more senior, you will attend courses to help you develop your skills as a successful line manager. And once you're qualified, you can be promoted to a senior auditor, where it's a very tidy salary jump for that. And we can talk about that a little bit later if anyone has any questions. But it is a very, very great qualification to have. And just as this slide kind of suggests, we do the ACA, is one of the most prestigious qualifications. It is very much sought after by employers all over the world. It is globally recognised. So if you were to up and move to another country, you would not have to kind of start again. That qualification will follow you. And we find quite frequently when our trainees become qualified, they get a lot of phone calls from agencies wanting to sort of throw jobs their way, saying, oh, we've just come across you. You might be interested to hear about this job. So this is just to give you a bit of an overview of the ACA exam. So there's sort of the three sort of main levels that you do. But as an apprentice, there were 15 exams that you'll do in 3 different stages. And you'll usually do your first 6 exams over 12 months, starting in the November after you start. And alongside that, you have 6 reflective statements, which form part of your apprenticeship. And that's things covering off things like teamwork and leadership. All of our trainees start in September, so your first exam is usually sat in November after you start, but the rest are spread out fairly evenly. But you will complete most of your exams in just over 4 years. But because it's a 5-year training agreement, it gives you that extra time in case you need to resit, but also the time to get your time qualification in terms of your work experience days. So to be signed off by the ACA, you need to finish your exams and pass all of them and have 450 days of work experience, which you'll get very easily over that period once you start working on audits and value for money studies. And the college provider we work with have a number of locations across London, and the one in Newcastle is very, very central, very close to the office, and I think it's pretty much right near the train station, if I remember correctly. I'm seeing nods from Rachel, so that is good.
Right,
this is the DFA Apprentice. Sorry, and I think I'd like B, maybe, or Mark to come in and just talk about this one.
Yeah, so that would be Mark. But there was a question on numbers. Do we want to tell the attendees the number of ACA apprentices that we take on every year?
Yeah, we take on sort of roughly around 20 a year. So quite a nice number for apprentices. But we can cover off a lot more in detail during the Q&A section. But yeah, Mark, did you want to kind of touch upon the DFA apprenticeship model?
Yes, completely prepared as I am. Hi everybody, Mark Burford, Senior Audit Manager at the Digital Financial Audit team. I work very closely with B on a banjo on the call there. I've been here 16 years, B's been here a lot longer, but apparently I should talk to you because I'm enthusiastic about this still after 16 years. Okay, so yeah, government's definitely getting more digital, whether that's you applying for your passports or doing your tax returns. And I just spoke to a colleague, apparently there's no limit on the a lower limit on the age you can pay tax. That's disgusting. But yes, if you're an entrepreneur at 5, you pay tax, apparently. But all that's done online these days. And with this digital transformation across government, everything that can go through that technology, all the transactions, all the interactions, how government does its business is online. That introduces a lot more risk to our audits, i.e. it introduces risks that the numbers in those financial statements that we audit could be wrong because of risks coming from that technology. Is it processing it wrong? Is it accepting wrong input? Is it chucking garbage out the other end and everything in between? And what are the controls in there to stop that all going wrong? That's where the digital financial audit team comes in. So Parliament does need assurance that that digital transformation isn't impacting upon the accountability mechanisms that we're part of for government on behalf of Parliament. So we are therefore to audit that technology. We are moving away from traditional auditing methods, which involve downloading transactions, sampling them and finding bits of paper or digital copies of paper and making sure it's all right. We're more focused on the technology itself, the controls in that technology itself, the masses of data that sits in here, and we're going to try and audit through the technology, not look at what comes in and goes out the other end of it. So that's where we're trying to be. That sort of an approach provides a better quality audit. If you're looking at everything, almost better value, because if you're making a recommendation about control that hits all those transactions, it's going to add more value to your client. Value to our client isn't in terms of isn't profit, it's about the value we can add to the government. It's a better credible approach as well to auditing the technology that government uses itself, and it can be more efficient. This is why we're going this way, and our team is looking for 4 people to join us in this endeavour because we're expanding. We work very, very closely with financial auditors to help them understand those risks, the things that could go wrong in that technology. You think about buying a passport, every single thing that could go wrong in getting that from starting your application to paying and getting it through your front door. All that's tech, apart from the postman, which isn't very technical and technological. So we help them understand those risks. Then we help them identify a scope or a strategy or a mechanism, i.e. the audit approach to address that. And it could be finding controls to test. It could be writing some scripts to replicate what the computer's doing. Anywhere we can do it. For example, passports, let's dump the passport system, let the database, let's multiply every single passport type by its fee in our heads or on the computer. And then that's the number of income we'd expect to see in the passport office's accounts, right? You sold this many of this type, this cost, that's what you should see. So that's what all the technology has gone through and said, we earned that much money, and we'd like use our digital approaches to say, yeah, looks about right. That's good. So that's a whiz-stop tour of roughly the digital financial audit team. We're currently split into 3. The IT audit team does exactly what I said we just did. We've got a data analytics team, which look at more of the data approaches, the scripting, the SQL, whatever we can do with data to help our audit teams. Then we've got another team that supports teams in using the technology that we have available to us at the NAO for doing digital audit approaches. So this apprenticeship gives you experience across the IT audit and the data analytics functions, and at the end of the apprenticeship you'll have the opportunity to specialize into one or the other. I think I should say, because we haven't said it already, so in the first year of the apprenticeship you'll do the CFAB, Certificate of Finance and Business, and that is the same as the first year of the ACA. It is 6 exams, but good news, they're multiple choice. The answer's C. Okay, I failed one of them. Doesn't matter. We got quite a good retake policy. They're multiple choice. You can go again and get it done quite quick. The next 3 years, I think B and I need to find out exactly how they're assessed, but it shouldn't be too exam heavy, if at all. But we're going to find out, and we will come back on that one afterwards. But basically, you receive training on all technical IT concepts, data analytics, cybersecurity, software engineering, business systems analysis, whatever that is. I think it's a posh name for understanding business systems. Which is what we do in our day-to-day job. We talk to our clients, we write down all their processes, systems, identify controls, find out where the risk is, advise teams on how to test those, and test it ourselves if it gets really technical and sticky. You're going to learn that both at BPP and on the job from brilliant people like me and B and the rest of our 20-odd people in our team. At the end of it all, so in addition to your CFAB, you'll get a BSc in Applied Digital Technology at the end. So yeah, there you go. Whistle stop tour. Probably spoke for too long. Probably spoke too fast. But that's how I am. I've had too much coffee. I'll hand back to Zoe or B if you want to come in and add anything to that.
Thanks, Mark. Just to add to what Mark just said, the beauty of this apprenticeship scheme is that you get a qualification at each stage. So, for example, in the very first year, once you've passed all your exams, you get the ICAW certificate in accounting, finance, and business. Because we are an audit institution, our apprentices need to have a solid grounding in accounting. So that's ACA certificate level will give you that grounding. And then you go on to do your degree. So, and at the end of each year of the degree, you get qualifications. So BPP University, at the end of year 1, would award the Certificate of Higher Applied Digital Technology. End of year 2, you get a Diploma of Higher Education in Applied Digital Technology. And at the end of year 3, after you've done your endpoint assessment, you get your degree, your BSc Honors in Applied Digital Technology. Back to you, Zoe.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, B. So if all of this sounds very interesting, you might be interested to know then what the actual entry requirements are. So we ask for GCSEs. So you do need to have obviously English at maths, either between grade A to C, or I think on the new number scale between, I think it's 4 to 9. But we do look for a minimum of 120 from your top 3 A levels or equivalents if you study BTEC or something like that. You shouldn't have a degree. So if you have got a degree, then you do need to go down the graduate route. For anyone obviously that is going to be studying in their final year, then just pop in your predicted grades into your application form, and then we would obviously just verify them at the end if you've been made an offer. Just because of the nature of the work that we do need to follow civil service nationality rules. So anyone applying to us must be able to live and work in the UK without any restrictions. So usually that will be UK nationals or from the Commonwealth, or people that have gone through the EUSS as part of us leaving the European Union. But any questions at all about eligibility, you are welcome to email our service desk and we will happily answer those questions for you. So I've made sure I've popped our email address on most of the slides, so you do have that. If anyone is currently on a training contract with another accountancy firm, we would advise that you stay where you are. Because of the nature of the pathway that we have in place, it's very difficult for someone to sort of jump ship and then join us. So we would recommend that if you are on a current training scheme with ACA with another firm, stay where you are, finish it, get your qualification, and then you are always welcome to join us as an actual qualified auditor. Now, on the note of the UCAS points, if you do have a minimum of 104 UCAS points, you might still be eligible to apply, as we actually run what we call a contextual recruitment process, which means that we will review your application in the context of your socioeconomic background. So all of this will be explained on the application form when you start applying. So some of the benefits of the trainee scheme, and this is one of the things that I love about our apprenticeships, we pay a really, really good salary for an apprenticeship. So for London joiners, they are at this moment, based on our current salary annex, they are earning just over 26,000, and for our trainees in London, just over 20,500. So it's a really great salary, very competitive. Not only that, your ACA qualification is fully funded by the NAO, so you're getting fantastic first-class tuition with a great external provider. All of your subscriptions are paid for. You get 25 weeks of paid study leave in block release, so that helps to maximise your success. We've got fantastic pass rates. Our exam pass rates are well above the national average. So it's a great opportunity to earn while you learn. And plus you get annual pay increases and you get special increases every time you pass a key stage of your qualification. And not only that, but you might not want to think about this just yet, but we have the excellent civil service pension scheme, and it really is excellent. So some really great benefits there. But just not just about that, there is also a really fantastic support system. So a lot of our colleagues that joined came through the training scheme. So they were in your shoes, they know exactly what you're going through. So they are absolutely able to kind of support you. You've got line managers who will oversee your work and development. We assign you buddies that will help you get settled into the office. They're on hand to answer questions when you first join and you're just trying to find your feet. So a huge amount of support, and it's not just that, there's a great social network as well. So we actually have a sports and social club, variety of sports teams, clubs, staff networks, a lot of really great social events that happen all the time. Annual Christmas party always goes down really well. I went to our pop quiz before Christmas, my first one. It was chaotic but so much fun, and I've even signed up for the movie quiz in a few weeks. So this is where you'll see my very competitive side come in. As an organisation, we are very committed to making the NAO a very diverse and inclusive organisation. It's a real integral part of who we are, and it does reflect our core values. And we're really proud, actually, that a lot of these providers and enterprises that we work with have sort of recognised our achievements in doing that. So I just kind of wanted to touch on some of the people that we do work with and what we do to really sort of monitor our diversity figures within the organisation, and also through our assessment processes as well. So this is just the recruitment process that we have. It's probably a very standard process if you have sort of looked at other roles as well, but you register on our website. If you meet the minimum requirements, you'll be asked to complete an online test, which is a numerical reasoning test. And you do not need to be a mathematician to do this. I failed maths at school. I even passed this when I did it last year. But the test is designed to show how you work with data, how you make decisions, using the kind of numerical information you might come across when working at the NAO. We have practice tests that you can do before you do the actual test, and it will give you a bit of a feel for the kind of questions that are asked. But it's also a great way to prepare and help you perform to the best of your ability. If you successfully pass that stage, we'll ask you to complete what we call CBQs, that's competency-based questions. And these are open-ended questions where we assess you against our competencies. So it might be a question such as, tell me about a time when you've had to work in a team and work towards a deadline. What did you do? How did you get there? So they're quite specific around how you went about doing something. We have a lot of hints and tips on our website, so I really do recommend that you make really good use of that to make sure you're approaching each stage in a way that will see you performing to the best of your ability. Following that, if you're successful, we have a telephone interview with our lovely team, similar in style to the CBQs, where the questions could be kind of open-based, but there might be some scenario questions as well, such as, imagine that you're working at the NAO and you've been asked to work on a particular project with a brand new team. You've never worked this team before. How do you kind of approach it? So they can be quite broad, and it's a way for you to really think creatively about how you might approach a particular task or a particular situation. But again, we have a lot of hints and tips. So again, you really use that to make sure that you are fully prepared in terms of how you approach the interview. And the final stage we have is an assessment centre, and we actually run these currently in person, but also virtual, depending on what happens with things like trains and tube strikes. But it's a great way to come to the office, see our office, meet our people, participate in group and individual exercises, and find out a lot more about whether you feel that this is going to be the right path for you. And after that, we make offers, and all our offers they are conditional on doing some pre-employment checks. But if you offer, then you would start the following September after you have finished school. But again, a bit of a whistle-stop tour there, but a lot more information on our website. But what I'd like to do is for me to stop talking and actually hand over to my colleagues. So we're joined by Dane and Rachel, who are audit apprentices. And just because I've got Dane on my list first, Dane, shall I hand over to you just to give us a quick background about you, what you studied, joining us, what you've been up to? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Happy to. So, hi everyone, my name's Dane, and just to quickly circle back to one of the first things that Zoe said, in case you've joined halfway through, I am quite literally the living, breathing example. You do not need to do maths, you don't need to do economics, you don't need to have even done an accountancy at A level. For me, I did biology, I did psychology and PE, so definitely not ones that spring to mind, right, as, oh, you should go and do accounting. It's my aim tonight to sort of be as open and honest as possible. And this might be a sentiment a lot of you share. So I had no idea when I was in your shoes, year 12, year 13, where I really wanted to go to. I thought about the army, the navy. I thought about becoming an electrician, plumber, and also somewhere on that list was accounting, where I stumbled across this scheme. It blew everything else out the water. When you read up about it, when you understand the level of what you're getting versus actually how much flexibility you have in return. For example, I have a friend who is at one of the big four doing the exact same qualification. I'm not allowed to say which, Zoe, am I? No. He's at one of the big four doing the exact same qualification, and there's a world of difference, in his own words, by the way, in just the flexibility, the support offered. If maybe you're someone that does need extra support, you know, the support is most definitely here. Second point, that if you're wondering whether to do university or an apprenticeship, if you're not sure, and it's your own choice, but I would really recommend giving apprenticeships some thought, especially with the new repayments that you have to do for university. The debt is really significant, and if anyone sort of will sit there and tell you it's not, you do have to think twice. I think it's absolutely great to do university if that is where you want to go and you need a degree for it. But by all means, look at other options. There's so many things nowadays where, although you can take that route through a degree, if you do an apprenticeship or a degree apprenticeship like this is, it offers you such a great alternative. I mean, I'm happy to take any sort of other questions in the chat about the application process, certain things I'd recommend you want to do. One thing for me, if you're still in school at the moment and you're working, absolutely make the most of that. And what I'd recommend you do, anytime something happens where you've demonstrated or you think you might have demonstrated like a key competency or behavior which, you know, would be good to share during application, absolutely make note of it, make note of details. It will make you seem much more interesting, much more engaging, and it will give you something to talk about when you're going through that admittedly very long application process with some quite challenging competency questions if you're not prepared for it. So before I hand you over to Rachel, who can talk to you a little bit about other options with the application process, that's the one piece of advice that I'd give you, is to just start preparing. Nothing crazy, but always keep in the back of your mind that you can say about yourself, things you've achieved, it doesn't have to be a physical achievement. It could be the way you've interacted with someone that demonstrates your ability to, you know, be good around people in a professional setting, anything along those lines. I'll scan the chat for any questions and I will try and answer them if I can. If not, then I will hand you over to my colleague Rachel.
Thanks, Dane. Yeah, Rachel, over to you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Rachel and I'm based in the Newcastle office, and I started alongside Dane in September. And as Zoe mentioned before, I did the work experience in October. And when I applied for the work experience, I didn't realise that they sort of offered apprenticeships. And I was like Dane, I never really knew what I wanted to do at school either. And I feel like my school was really pushy towards university and sort of said, you know, there's no other options, you know, definitely go to uni, and kind of like look down on apprenticeships. And I feel like they never really understood this apprenticeship that I was sort of going to take on. So a little context for my A-levels, I did do maths and economics and financial studies, and I also did history. But as Zoe said, you don't need to sort of have anything related to them subjects. And so yeah, and sort of while I've been here, I've been on a mix of some of the VFM studies. So I've been on the scoping side, and then also towards the end where it's getting nearly going to be published. And then I've also been on quite a lot of financial audit work as well. So sort of working in my team and doing the interim audit at the minute. So on the side of exams, it's sort of spread out. So you do 6 exams in the first 12 months, and so far we've done 2 exams, and we're going to do the 3rd one in March. So I actually failed the first exam. Not like a horror story, but you need 55% to pass, and I got 53%. So it was a little bit, and it was quite annoying. But the organisation was really supportive and offered lots of support, and were really willing to help me go and study. So I feel like Dane sort of mentioned some of the other big 4 aren't that supportive, but I feel like that's definitely one of the NAO's really good qualities. You know, they're really supportive of you, and they really want you to do well. You can really tell speaking to people, everyone's really encouraging. So yeah. Is there any sort of questions on the apprenticeship scheme? The work experience was in person.
On the questions, I'll go through them if that's okay. Just I can just filter through rather than you having to look through the chat. So if you want to finish what you were going to say, otherwise we can move on to questions when you're.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Mark B, did you want to say anything about sort of you before we move on to the Q&A?
Don't give me the floor again. I'll talk for hours. I'll just say that I'll do what others have done. I went to A-levels maths, physics, French. I did go to university. I didn't really have an option of doing an apprenticeship at the time. It's just how my career was planning out in my future life. I shall go to university because I'm a clever person. I had a heck of a time there. I was telling you, kind of saying, do weigh up the apprentice thing. I went to university, loved it, did more socialising, drinking and all that sort of stuff than ever did do electronics. Would I change it? Probably not. But I massively recognise that when I work with the apprentices in our office, after they've completed their schemes, compared to the graduates we've taken on at the same point in their career, i.e. qualify with an ACA, and I get a choice on my team, I'm going for the apprentice every time because they've got more experience. Yeah. They're better at their job at the same point. So you do get a leg up, a foot up. And some of our best people who've just qualified as manager came through the apprenticeship scheme. So as a senior manager person who would say, who do I want on my team? Who am I going to pick for projects? It is really an advantage in your future career with us here. So you could say the same, I've got a degree, it's an advantage in the job market. But when you're in an organisation and you're known, you're trusted, you've had those extra couple of years and others, you're very much more a preferred option here. So it's a good leg up, I would say. So yeah, echo what other people have said. And from a manager's perspective, apprentices are very good for us very good, competent, skilled people to experience after you've qualified. B?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said, Mark. Yeah, nothing much to add.
Right, thank you guys. We've had a few questions, so I'm going to try and do this. We've got a few minutes left. We might have to overrun a little bit with some of the questions, but I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. I think the first question, Zoe, is going to probably be for you. There's quite a few questions on the work experience program, and I'll try and sort of group the questions together. And I might recap on some of the stuff you've already answered in the chat, just for the benefit of everyone that's not been reading the chat as we've been going through. Are there any entry requirements for the 1 week work experience program?
Yes, there are. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are because it is actually run by our diversity team. But I believe it is probably going to be similar. So you do need to be on track for 120 UCAS points. That might be the only eligibility criteria that I believe, but I can definitely look into that when I speak to the team tomorrow. So I can obviously send responses back to you, Mitesh.
That's fine. That's fine. We can share that tomorrow. So these might be slightly simpler. What is the application process, and when does the application typically open for that work experience program? And finally, I'll just do this one quickly as well. Is it a virtual work experience or is it in person?
It is in person. So yes, so since lockdown ended, we've now brought our work experience back in-house. So I think it's been 2 years now that we've had them back in-house. So it is obviously based in London or Newcastle. So ideally it would be for people that are probably within commutable distance. It is a paid work experience program. So I think that's quite unusual these days for work experience to be paid. So we do pay you for the week that you are with us. And it is a great opportunity just to spend those 5 days with the teams, just understand a lot more about what we do. And I think there's a lot of skill sessions as well that the teams organise just to really sort of help you prepare if you did decide that you wanted to pursue this once you finished. Applications for this should open, I think probably around June time, but I did pop in the chat. If you email our service desk and ask to go on the mailing list for the work experience, we'll add you to the list. And as soon as the applications open, you'll get a notification from the team that manage that to let you know applications are open. Here's the link. You can go ahead and apply and do the necessary sort of application. So it's a slightly different application to the one that we do for the main apprenticeship schemes, because that's all done online, whereas this one I think is done through, I think it might be done through CV, possibly. But I need to check because I know that they've been refining some of the process over the past few months.
I think the moral there is if you're interested in that program, we get on the mailing list, you'll get all the information as and when it's available and ready. Zoe, one more for you before I move on to the apprentices. So there was something about contextual reduction in UCAS points depending on your situation.
Yes.
Are you able to elaborate on like how that works or what the criteria?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we do have a sort of minimum requirement of 120, but we do actually go down to 104 minimum. And what we do is we use a system called a contextual recruitment system, and it's run through a company called Rare. So what this does, it's a system that allows recruiters to understand people's achievements and experience in context to allow us to find the best hires from obviously a big talent pool. So it actually looks at social mobility. So it actually looks at your academics, it looks at your personal details, and it looks at your socioeconomic details. So we don't see anything that you submit. So if you were to go online now and apply for our apprenticeship scheme and you didn't have 120, the system would flag that and it would then direct you to answer some questions. So we don't see how you answer. It's all done completely anonymously through the Rare system that's integrated with ours. Once you submit it, Rare run it through their system and then it actually produces an output that comes to us. So it's a way for them to assess based on your schooling, your personal, and also your socioeconomic. So it will look at areas such as, I think, how your school fared with exams, with socioeconomic. It will look at your postcode. Are you sort of Did you do any part-time work during school term time? Were you eligible for free school meals based on household income? So it goes through all of those stages. But if you're unsure when you get to that stage, again, you can email into us and we can go through that with you in a bit more detail.
Great, thank you very much for that. I'm going to move on to some questions, I think, really for the apprentices. We've had a question is, how easy has it been for you to combine the study that you do and your day job? I don't mind who goes first. So
Yeah, I don't mind going first in this, unless Rachel, you have something you burningly want to say.
I was just going to say that your team sort of don't contact you when you're in college, and there's no sort of expectations of it to be completing audit work. Like, college time is dedicated to college and studying, and then when you return to work, they're also quite respectful as well. And, you know, if you sort of have a bit of free time in the afternoon, might say, oh, you can have a quick look over any questions or from the question bank, or sort of, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I can completely second that. As Rachel being in Newcastle and having had that sort of experience, I've found the same thing. I'll be very honest, I'm not trying to sell this as easy work. You will have things that you need to do, and you're given time and you're given the sort of space to do what you need to do. But ultimately, it's as much your own initiative to push yourself and do well as it is, you know, for the office culture to create the space for that. And so you just will need to make sacrifices for your personal life and your social life when the exams draw close. But to give you a timeline, for example, I started in September. We've done 2 exams. It's about college for like a small period of time, up to a maximum 7 consecutive working days of college. You then go back, you consolidate all of your information, and you're studying that as you're working on the job as well. You are given exam support days. You are given a full day of study leave the Friday before the exam, which will typically be on Monday. But it won't be a case of then, oh, you have the day off. It's you have the day off because you should be working and you should be, you know, putting effort in towards the exam in that time you've been given. So you're given the space to, but make some sacrifices where needed.
thank you very much for that. Another question actually talks about like competencies you look for in the application process. And like, actually, I think Dane, you touched on it. So I could ask the managers on this, but actually perhaps Dane and Rachel, you could say what you had in your application that made you stand out, perhaps, and what you thought made you stand out, and then maybe we can push it over to the managers, say like what kind of things they look for in competencies and skills.
Okay, one thing which I think might have done quite well for me was that I worked part-time all the way through sixth form. So actually circling back to what was relevant, the last question was being able to have that experience saying, okay, yes, studying towards exams, being real exams or mocks and whatever, and actually having worked and trying to balance work and study at the same time before. And I'm not saying, right, you've got to go out and get a job and work as the priority over your exams. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just being able to have something like that to talk about might be quite good. If you're in hospitality, maybe think about examples of the way you've communicated with people, because you do get challenging situations there. I'm sure any of you in the chat who have worked in hospitality have got stories to tell of very awkward and difficult interactions. Talk about them. Talk about the way you've dealt with them. Talk about the struggles that imposed the challenge and how you then overcame it. Just selling yourself as to why you're a good fit. That can't hurt.
Thank you for that. Rachel, are you able to share your experience?
Yeah, I think just be honest and just be yourself. I think obviously I had a part-time job all the way throughout sixth form in hospitality, and as Dane was sort of saying, had a lot of difficulties working with the public. So that definitely boosted my sort of communication skills and interpersonal skills. And I think sort of going throughout sixth form and sort of school, you definitely gain loads of skills doing that, which you don't even really realise until you actually physically put them into practice. And obviously I did the work experience, which sort of fast forwarded my application processes. I'd already done a lot of the forms already before completing the work experience. So that's another thing, if you do the work experience, you don't have to fill out the forms again. You just have to go and do the assessment centre, which is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I would definitely echo what Rachel said about being yourself. That is probably the most important thing. Don't try and play a part. Don't try and play a part of who you think we're looking for. We want to know about you. And I absolutely echo about, you know, sort of doing part-time work. I had a Saturday job when I was at school, and then I ended up doing a lot of that after school as well. And it was a great way of developing my communication skills, my team working skills, communicating with customers. And not only that, but it really built my confidence as well. So yeah, I did front of house work working in a fish and chip shop, and it was probably the best part-time job that I ever had. And I did it all the way through school, all the way through college, and I only quit when I actually started my first full-time job. So absolutely, I would agree with that. But I kind of want to sort of echo as well to say that we do not have a standard NAO trainee. You know, we don't have a mould that we look for. What we look for are people that are sort of genuinely motivated to want to join us, you know, that really want to kind of work for the good of the taxpayer. So we are looking for team players, but, you know, because of the work and the nature of audit, you do need to have sort of those analytical skills as well. And you do need to be adaptable because, you know, there is going to be change. There's going to be moving deadlines. Goalposts are going to be moved all the time. But also being ready to take on challenges. So that's another thing as well that we look for.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm conscious we're a little bit over and people are like dropping off, so we're going to let them get on with their evening and call it a night. Thank you everyone from the NAO, and thank you everyone for attending. It's been really insightful, and if you've missed anything, we will try and endeavour to answer any questions that we've missed, and this will be on YouTube tomorrow, so if you want to recap on anything, it'll be there. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Miss Hedge. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.